It was perhaps the most unique school in Marquette history, from the way teachers taught their lessons to the way students could be admitted. That school, J.D. Pierce. What is now NMU began its life in 1899 as the Northern State Normal School. One of the school's primary missions was to train the future educators of Upper Michigan, and it became apparent that the best way to train those educators was to actually let them teach. So just a year after Northern began classes, they opened the John D. Pierce Training School, funded by the state and named after the father of the Michigan public school system, the first state superintendent of public education. The K-12 school was set up in an unusual manner. Each class was taught by Northern State Normal students who worked with a critic teacher, an experienced educator who supervised the whole process. The critic teacher started classes for the year and then turned them over to the student teacher, although the critic had daily meetings with their student teachers to mentor them. Classes were taught in Longyear and K halls, but student growth at the school meant that a dedicated building was soon needed. So in 1925, under the leadership of school principal Don H. Bottom, a separate building for the school was constructed on campus, which gave students their own space, but also allowed them access to the science labs, auditoriums, and other facilities of the college. Unlike other public schools in Marquette, which separated schools by neighborhoods, J.D. Pierce was a melting pot school. Anyone was eligible to attend, and classes were free. Parents just had to submit an application for their child to attend. At its peak in the 1950s, the school had 350 students and 25 teachers. One of the biggest moments in school history occurred in 1961 when the boys' high school basketball team won the state Class D championship with a 68-61 victory over downstate Free Soil. It was the first time in Marquette that a sports team had claimed a state title, and it was heralded all over the city. Less than a month later, while the team and its coach were talking about plans to defend their title the next season, news came that Northern Michigan College would be shutting down the high school part of Pierce thanks to a state legislative decision to not fund training schools the same way that they were funding public schools, and that meant the Warriors never got the chance to defend their state title. The elementary school at Pierce continued for another decade using unique educational methods, including an extended school year and the latest in technology. But after the passage of the Michigan Educational Reform Act of 1968, which changed the way the state funded schools, the writing was on the wall for J.D. Pierce. It was decided that fall to have a phased shutdown of the school, eliminating certain grades every year so that it would be closed for good at the end of the 1970-71 school year. During that final year, the school had 200 students and 12 teachers in its remaining few grades. After it shut down, the students dispersed to their neighborhood schools in Marquette, while NMU continued to use the building for its own classes. That structure, along with Longyear Hall, was torn down in 1992 for a parking lot, removing the last sign of what had once been Marquette's most unique school.